Hi everyone. I've never written anything like this before, but I can't stop thinking about what happened. Maybe writing it down will help. So I have two grandmas, yeah. I know that sounds strange. Most people just have one from each side. But my family's story is a different. Grandma 65, that's what I always called her because of her age, is my mom's mom. She's warm, soft-spoken, and always smells like vanilla. Every time I visited her, there would be fresh cookies waiting. She'd say, one for each hand, and wink at me like it was our secret. Her kitchen felt like a hug, always warm, always safe. Then there's Grandma 63, she lives across the street. She's my dad's mom. She never said much. At least not to me. But she always watched from her window. Always. I remember thinking she looked like one of those statues never moving. Always just there, cold eyes. Thin lips. But somehow I never felt scared of her, just curious. They never spoke, not even once. Family events were always awkward. If Grandma 65 was invited, Grandma 63 stayed home, and vice versa. At birthdays, holidays, and school events, I always had to take turns sitting with them. As a kid, I just thought that was normal. But last week on a lazy Sunday, I did something I've never done before. I asked. I was in the kitchen with Grandma 65, licking the spoon after we baked chocolate chip cookies. She was humming an old tune when I looked out the window and saw Grandma 63. Same spot, staring right at us through her lace curtains. That's when I said, Grandma, why don't you and Grandma 63 ever talk? You live so close. Did something happen? She froze. Like completely froze mid-stir. Mid-hum, mid-smile. The spoon clattered onto the floor. I've never seen her drop anything, ever. She turned slowly to look at me. Her face pale like she'd just seen a ghost. That's not a question you should ask. Sweetheart, she whispered, not today, not ever. I laughed nervously, why not? I'm 17, I'm not a baby. That's when she said something I'll never forget. She's not just your other grandma. Baby, she's the reason your mother almost didn't come home from the hospital. I blinked. Wait, what? She just shook her head and wiped her hands on her apron. I shouldn't have said that. Your parents never told you, huh? No, I said slowly. Told me what? Before she could answer, we both heard 3 knocks. Hard. Coming from the front door. She looked at me with this mix of fear and sadness. Don't open that, she said, not yet. But I did. Because curiosity is louder than fear. And standing there in her neat blue sweater, with her hair pulled back tight, was Grandma 63. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Grandma 65 behind me. And for the first time in my life, one of them spoke to the other. All she said was, Lily, it's time. Then my world started to unravel. I stepped back, heart thudding like a drum inside my chest. I looked at Grandma 65 Lily, and I swear, I saw her knees wobble. She reached for the edge of the counter like she needed something to hold her up. Time for what? I asked, my voice shaking. But they didn't answer me. They just stared at each other like two people who had waited too long to say something. Grandma 63 took one step into the house. I kept quiet for 30 years, Lily. I kept your secret even when I shouldn't have. But he's gone now, there's nothing left to protect. Lily, my sweet, cookie-baking grandma whispered. Please don't do this here, not in front of her. In front of her, Grandma 63 scoffed. She's almost grown, she has a right to know who she really is. My throat dried up. What are you talking about? I know who I am. That's when Grandma 63 turned to me and said something I never saw coming. Your mother isn't my son's child. The air cracked open. Lily's face went white. She stepped forward and held her hands out, like she wanted to stop the words from floating any further. Please don't involve her, she begged. But it was too late. I was already unraveling inside. What does that mean? I asked. My mom isn't Grandpa Peter's daughter? Grandma 63's eyes soft and not in a kind way, but in a tired way, like someone who's carried a heavy suitcase for too many years. She's not, and you were never supposed to find out like this. But the truth has a way of showing up. Sometimes in a face, sometimes in a voice. Sometimes in a window you can't stop looking through. Lily sat down at the kitchen table, her hands trembling. She was young, she said quietly. Too young, and I was in love, but not with Peter. I just stared at her. With who? That's when both women looked at each other. Then, Lily whispered, with her husband. My knees buckled. I caught myself on the fridge. What? I said. Wait, how what? Grandma 63 was already nodding. That's right. My husband, your real grandfather. The man I buried while knowing he left me for her, but never completely. Lily was crying now. Soft, tired tears. I didn't plan it. He was lonely. And so was I. Peter worked all the time. I was raising a baby alone. And he understood me. So a mom is his? I said slowly. Your husband's? Grandma 63 nodded. She has his eyes. I always knew. That's why I could never love her. Not properly. Every time I saw her, I saw betrayal. I saw what was taken from me. I sat down too, the room spinning around me. But you both let this go on for so long. You lied to everyone. Lily looked up, her face so soft, so warm, was now filled with something like shame and heartbreak mixed together. We thought it was better that way. To keep the families whole, to pretend. She looked at me. But the pretending hurts, after a while. It eats at you. And we got so used to watching each other from across the street. We forgot what it meant to speak. I looked out the window. The two houses, the silence, the cookies, the cold stare from across the street. It had all meant something deep. Something broken, and now I was sitting in the middle of it, holding pieces of a past I never asked for. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My head felt full of noise. But my mouth wouldn't for many words. How do you even begin to respond when your whole family history just cracked open like an egg? Lily, my grandma 65, reached across the table and gently took my hand. Hers were warm but shaky. I wanted to tell you for years, she said, but every time I looked at your faces, I saw the best part of him. And I didn't want to spoil that. The best part of him, Grandma 63 snapped. Who is my husband, and he left me for you. You got his best, his mornings, his secrets, his love. I got silence and shame. Lily winced, but didn't argue. I know, she said, and I've never stopped being sorry. I finally found my voice. Does Mom know? The silence that followed was thicker than before. She suspects, Lily said softly. She found letters, once a letters. I told her they were from someone who admired me from afar. But she always asked why you hated her. She said, looking at Grandma 63. And I never had the courage to give her the full answer. I didn't hate her, Grandma 63 said in a low voice. I hated you for putting her in my life as a daily reminder. I blinked hard, trying to take it all in. So, oh wait, the cookies, the birthdays. You both were at everything, you both smiled. But all the time everything was pretending. I finished the sentence myself. No, Lily said quickly, not everything. My love for you is real, so was hers. She never showed it the same way. But she watched from the window because she cared. That was the only way she could be close without breaking. I turned to Grandma 63. You care? Her expression shifted, still stiff. But something behind it cracked. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, folded paper. It looked old, fragile. She slid it across the table. I was saving this for your 18th birthday, but maybe now is better. I unfolded it slowly. It was a sketch, a pencil drawing of me on Lily's porch eating a cookie, grinning like an idiot, but the details, the shading, the lines, it was like someone had poured love into every corner of the page. I used to draw, she said, stopped when he left. But I kept watching you. You were the only one who made me pick up a pencil again. My throat tightened. All this time I thought she was cold, distant, unbothered. But she wasn't. She was hurting in her own quiet way. I don't know what to do with all this, I said finally. It's like I was standing on a bridge that suddenly disappeared. You build a new one, Lily said. Together if we can. Grandma 63 didn't speak, but she didn't get up to leave either. She just looked at the cookies on the table. Then she whispered, he liked oatmeal raisin. And Lily, my Grandma 65, smiled for the first time since the door opened. I remember, watched them sit there in silence. The air now thick not with anger, but with something softer, something like a memory. I looked back at the sketch in my hands. The way Grandma 63 had drawn my face, it wasn't just about me. It was about him, her husband. The man who had broken her heart. And somehow given her a piece of it back in the form of my mother. And then me. Suddenly, all those times I saw her in the window. They didn't feel so cold anymore. She wasn't judging. She was remembering. She was watching the life that could have been hers, just across the street. Lily stood up slowly. She wiped her eyes. Then walked over to the cupboard and pulled out a tin I had never seen before. It was old, dented, and wrapped in a faded ribbon. I kept this, she said, placing it gently in front of Grandma 63. It was the last batch of oatmeal raisin I ever made. I froze them the day he didn't come home. I held my breath as Grandma 63 reached for the tin. She opened it. Inside were 6 cookies, wrapped in wax paper. They were slightly crumbled but still there, still real. You froze them for him? She asked, voice shaking. Lily nodded, but I never had the heart to throw them out. Even after I married Peter. Even after everything. Grandma 63 picked one up, stared at it for a moment, then took the smallest bite. She didn't cry, not quite. But her lips trembled, and when she looked up, she met Lily's eyes for the first time in decades. He would have said you burned them, she said. Lily let out a soft laugh. He always liked them slightly overdone. Said the crunch reminded him of his childhood. They both smiled. Tiny, bitter, sweet. I didn't know what to say, so I just watched. And in that quiet, I realized something else. Maybe families aren't just built on blood and birthdays. Maybe they're built on the things no one ever talks about: regrets, choices, forgiveness too long delayed. And maybe, just maybe, I was the bridge between them now. So I said, trying to lighten the mood, "Can we all agree chocolate chip is superior? Or are we about to fight again?" Lily chuckled softly. Grandma 63 rolled her eyes. "Only someone your age would pick chocolate chip over oatmeal raisin." "Excuse me," I laughed, "it's called taste." And just like that, something shifted. Something broke. But something else started to mend. They didn't hug, they didn't cry in each other's arms. But they sat at the same table. They shared the same cookies. They looked at each other. And for the first time in my life, I saw both of my grandmothers at peace. At least for a moment. Because what none of us knew then, what was still waiting in the attic of Lily's house. Locked inside a wooden box with initials carved in the top was another letter. One my mother had found years ago. And hidden. And that letter would change everything again. I didn't know about the box. Not that day, not for another week. After that strange Sunday, the day everything spilled out like a cracked jar of secrets, I thought things might start getting better. Lily and Grandma 63 weren't exactly friends now. But they didn't pretend anymore. That felt like progress. Then one rainy afternoon, Mom called me. Her voice was quiet, and that always meant something was wrong. "I need you to come over," she said. "There's something I want to show you. It's about Grandma." I thought she meant Lily, but I was wrong. When I got there, Mom was already in the attic, kneeling by a dusty trunk. Her hands were shaking. "I found this a few years ago," she said, "in one of Dad's old toolboxes. I was going to throw." Inside the wooden box was a stack of yellowed letters tied with a thin red ribbon. So faded it looked almost pink now. Mom reached in carefully, like the paper might fall apart if she touched it too fast. She handed one to me. "The envelope said for Eliza, when she's ready." That's my mom's name. I looked at her. She looked back at me. "You've never read it?" I asked. She shook her head. "I couldn't. I was scared of what it might say. But now, after what happened with your grandmas, I think it's time." She slid her thumb under the flap and opened it. Her hands were trembling so hard, I could hear the paper shake. She read silently at first, her eyes moving slowly. Like every word needed extra time to land. Then her lips parted. And she whispered, "He wanted to keep me." "What?" I asked, stepping closer. She handed me the letter, still staring straight ahead like her mind had floated away. I started to read. "My sweet Eliza, if you're reading this, then Lily has kept her word. That means you've grown, and I've missed every moment of it. I don't know if that's a punishment I deserve or a price I had to pay to keep things from falling apart. But you need to know I wanted you. I fought for you. I asked your mother to leave with me. To start over, to tell the truth. But she said the world wouldn't forgive us. That people would call you a mistake. You weren't, not to me. You were my only light in a time I was drowning. I watched you from afar when I could. I carved your name into the fence post behind Lily's house. I kept every picture Lily dared to send. I don't know how your life turned out. I hope it's full of love. But no matter what they told you, no matter what name they gave you, you are mine. And I loved you every day I was alive. James." My hands were numb by the time I finished. I looked at Mom. Her eyes were glassy, but she wasn't crying. She looked hollow, like someone had just pulled the floor out from under her. And she was still waiting to hit the ground. "All this time," she whispered. "They told me he left. That he didn't want me. That I was an accident." I sat beside her. "You weren't, not even close." She pulled the rest of the letters from the box and set them down beside us. "There are more," she said, "dozens." "What are you going to do?" I asked. She stared at the box. "I don't know. But I need to talk to her." "You mean Grandma Lily?" She nodded, "and my father's wife. The one who raised me like I wasn't hers." We sat in silence, surrounded by dust and truth. Then Mom smiled faintly. "Do you remember the drawing she gave you? The one of you eating cookies?" I nodded. "She used to draw me too," Mom said. "When I was little. But then, one day she just stopped." I suddenly realized why. Because every time she looked at my mom, she saw his face. And every time Lily looked at my mom, she saw the cost of the love she couldn't keep. And somehow, in the middle of all of that pain, I had grown up loved. Even if that love came from opposite sides of the street.